already did live on Cut the Info.
Yeah, we are live.
That was a mess. So Facebook is just gonna be. We'll figure it out. So I'll take it away.
Revolutions
I'm gonna
always
figure this
start in
out.
the basement
Anyway,
somewhere. You know what I'm saying?
I know that we are live right now on YouTube. I just don't know if people see us clearly. Okay, I think now they can see us clearly. All right.
Yeah, we should be good. Just Facebook is a little iffy. Okay, sorry, I'll figure it out. You guys say something in the meantime to our friends.
Okay, are we on? You don't know what's up with Facebook? That's the question.
Yeah, Facebook. Done.
Okay,
I'm
so
working.
just go live on Facebook. You have the button.
I don't have the button. That's the problem. I'm looking for
That's
it.
weird. Okay.
It is weird.
I think I can click it on my end.
All right.
All right. Hello, everybody. I see that you can already hear us and
Oh, yeah.
see us. And what's
good.
up, everybody? Good to be here. Yeah, we are apparently live. Welcome to the Great Transition. If this, by any chance, is your first time watching this show, watching the recording, or maybe even live, then welcome. We are welcoming everyone who feels that this world at this time, the 21st century, is going through something unique, something unprecedented. We're here to tell you, based on the authentic wisdom of Kabbalah, that it truly is. What we're going through is something that we are referring to as the Great Transition, a time when humanity is going towards a multifaceted, integrated, all-inclusive global change of life in every realm of life and every realm of human engagement. That's what we're exploring in this podcast. That's what we're looking at through the eyes of the wisdom of Kabbalah and also what is happening in the world. So that would be my intro for today.
I think
Chris, take
I
it
think
away.
they've been introduced, and I think they're excited because they saw the thumbnail.
All right.
You think they saw the thumbnail? I don't know. It's been out for a while, so they've probably seen the movie. If you don't know what movie we're talking about, today we're going to talk about a few things, actually. A few things. One of the things we're going to talk about, we were recommended by a fellow CobbU instructor, Gilad Shir. You may have known him. Some of the viewers here may be familiar. He said he did a review, kind of a review, quote unquote, of this already, kind of, and said we should check it out. We checked it out. Some of us checked it out before, actually. But super interesting movie. Super interesting movie. Wow. The the visuals, the time lapse.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so what are we talking about?
The
We're talking
time
about
lapse are just
time lapse is
fantastic.
amazing.
Yes.
Some fantastic fungi. If you don't know what we're talking about, this is the movie we want to talk about. Why do we want to talk about this? First of all, because Gilad said it was worthwhile. Second of all, because there's something in it that is very relevant to the Great Transition and things that we want to talk about. So what happens? In this movie, you have a guy, his name is Paul Stamets. He was on Joe Rogan. Not sure if you guys saw him. He's basically kind of narrating, directing the movie, walking us through how he became familiar with the world of mushrooms, the world of fungi, and how it became interesting to him. So you kind of you go with him on his path and why it became interesting for him. And along the way, it becomes interesting for you. I know Seth kind of was like, all right, yeah, we'll check it out. I'm not sure. And then all of a sudden he's sending us messages like, wow, this is really crazy. So first of all, if you haven't seen it, we highly recommend that you go see it. But we're going to talk about a couple of things here that it's not like there's any spoilers here that we're going to ruin for you. But there's just a couple of things here that are really interesting. So what do we want to talk about? We want to talk about this kingdom of fungi, which for the layman just seems like, okay, you go in the forest, you see some fungus, some mushrooms. You're a little bit scared probably because you don't know if it's going to kill you. You don't know if you can eat it. So all in all, you kind of just avoid it generally. It's kind of the safe thing to do. This kingdom that exists, you have the plant kingdom and the bacterias and the eukaryotes and all these different things. We've got the kingdom, which is the biggest kingdom, called the Fungi kingdom. And it's all over the world. We just don't see it. It's all over the planet. Underneath the ground exist these networks of mycelia where they connect to each other and they communicate with each other. And they're kind of invisible because you're walking, like they said in the movie, you're walking each step, if you're walking at one step in the forest, then beneath you, you've got 300 feet worth of mycelia connection. And so
So
you just have this.
mycelia is like the root network.
It's the root network. I want to show a
Yeah.
picture. I want to show a picture of it.
Mycelia is it plural? Isn't it mycelium?
Mycelium is the plural. Yeah, it's plural.
Ah, okay.
I want to
So
show this picture though, just so you can get. It's kind of like a little graphic of what it would kind of look like. It's not even that great of a picture because I don't really want
right,
to spoil it. Um, where we go? It'll be
show
this
us.
3, 4. Can we see that? Yeah. Look at this. So
All
so
right.
this is just kind of a little bit of what I'm talking about. It's super simplistic diagram, but anything
Right.
else it
So it's
wouldn't
like
really.
the tip. It's like the tip of the iceberg type of thing, where you see something that like a mushroom on the surface, but underneath there's like this whole mess of threads of interconnected web.
Yeah, it's an
Right.
interconnected web. And here in this picture specifically, you can see that it's connected to trees, which is kind of the main thing that we're talking about here. Why is it important that it's connected to trees? Because that's kind of where it finds where it fits into the system. That doesn't just exist by itself. What does the fungus what does it do? It decomposes and it brings rebirth and reconstruction to the soil, to the forest. So without it, we would just have this buildup of plant matter that would just choke the earth essentially. So it's such a purposeful and useful component in the system that we live in on planet Earth to keep us basically alive and keep things going. I guess is how you would say it. So anyway,
So
so you go ahead.
plants obviously use photosynthesis, which means they take in carbon, which obviously there's a huge problem with carbon now, right? The greenhouse gases and everything like that. And so the they do use carbon for their leaves to build all, plants and trees use it for the leaves, but most of the carbon is actually stored underground. So the more that these things proliferate, and of course, every time we chop down forests and all that, we kill them, but they're basically taking carbon out of the air and bringing it back into the earth, right? That's where carbon comes from. It's all of our oil and everything. They take it out of the ground, we bring it
Right.
out, and then these networks bring it back and redistribute it in the
Yeah,
ground.
super
It's
interesting.
pretty amazing, yeah.
It is
There's
really
also
interesting.
there was the mycelia is incredible. I think we should talk about it more, and that's gonna maybe even transition into something we can relate to, almost like as a model of something spiritual, we could even say. But there was also other things that we don't want to go past this other thing of there was a period of time well, let me tell you a quick story, by the way. When we were in college,
Do
it was
tell.
like huh?
Do tell. Yes.
When we were in college, I never went on one of these adventures, but it was like a known thing. I went to college up in upstate New York, and like people would go out to because apparently the psychedelic mushrooms would grow on cow poop. So they would like
Oh.
there was like certain people who knew like which pastures lived up by Cornell University up in Ithaca there, and yeah, they would go out and collect things that on certain fall mornings or whatever. The mushrooms would grow on cow poop, and the psychedelic ones, the magic ones, grow on one of the places they grow is on cow poop. And so one of the most fascinating parts I thought of the movie, and I don't know if it's a hypothesis or if it's factual, but there's a period of time where
Super far-fetched, man. This is
okay,
what
so it could be super far fetched. It's a point they made up in
the Terence McKenna hypothesis. Yeah,
yeah. So he
it's
says that the
really
brain, it's
it
just totally
lacks
far out.
basis,
Okay,
completely
so
lacks basis.
so
But it's an interesting idea. It's a fun idea. It's fun, sure.
so you had monkeys, and at a certain period of time, the skull, the human cortex, like triples in size, and he was saying in the movie that it may have something to do with all of this, the way you're perceiving life as a normal animal, and then maybe they were following other creatures to eat, and maybe along the way eating some of these things off of the cow patties, and it maybe helped them develop tools, maybe help them navigate the world better. from this different kind
Art
of perception, which
and
for sure
music
is
and
different
stuff.
than just a straight up animal perception.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, no, I mean that might have happened. You know, we will probably never know, but that might have happened. But to go from that to say that that was the evolutionary, that you know that psilocybin or other or DMT or whatever were the evolutionary leap from monkey to human brain
oh,
The
how would
trigger,
we
yeah.
know
There's
that?
no way to know.
really far-fetched. That's completely far-fetched. I mean,
That's
it just like
but just to
spaces
say,
in the literature,
like,
but it's
yeah. So
interesting.
forget about whether or not that's actually how it happened. But if you're a regular monkey, like monkey, not just a monkey, but you're not so long ago, our ancestor monkeys, and you're walking from place to place looking for things, and then all of a sudden you eat a magic mushroom. Like, this is not a
Yeah,
normal monkey experience.
right.
So,
All
yeah.
right, well,
Yeah, no,
listen.
that is interesting. Very interesting.
It
Yeah,
is
Chris, go
interesting.
ahead.
It's
Yeah.
interesting, but it's not part of. Okay, it's very interesting because it still applies to our world. But what's happening? What's really what's the main catch here that we wanted to look at? The main thing is that first you enter this world of the movie brings you into this world of mushrooms that you didn't really think existed. You didn't understand. Like for example, the largest organism on Earth is this structure of mycelium that's connected in a mountain in a mountain range in Oregon. It's like three. It's like how big is it? I wrote it down. 35
Right. He said
kilometers or
it. Some
something.
like many football fields or something
Many
like
foot
that.
3.5 square miles, which is like the biggest organism. You want to say a blue
Talk to
whale.
me
You
in
want to say
football stadiums. How many football stadiums is that?
stadiums. I don't know, 5 maybe. I don't know, 6. I don't know, sir. I don't know,
Oh,
something like that.
I think it's a few dozen even.
You can say a few dozen.
Anyway,
Either way, my mind is still blown. You know, but
yeah,
basically, it's
yeah,
it's the same. It's the same genetic. It's a copy of the genetic material spread across this huge vast land, which connects all of the trees together. Everything's connected together. And another part in the movie, what they talk about is how they transport nutrients. You have the fungus, which is attached to trees, and the trees can communicate to other trees through this network of mycelium. And so if you have one section of trees where they are maybe lacking some nutrients, or there's some danger over there, then through that network of tunnels of fungus, basically, the fungus carries these signals, and they're able to transport nutrients or give out some kind of warning signals that this isn't the place to put seed, or be more, I don't know what warning is for a tree exactly. I
right.
think they explained it a little bit, but anyways, it's just, it opens up this world to you. And all of a sudden you realize
Incredible.
that,
Yeah,
okay,
that's really incredible.
it's super incredible. When you see the movie, you're like, you get drawn into it. Like you see that, wow, I've been ignoring this huge part of planet Earth for a long time, and it's the same thing that these people go through. They're like, wow, my world was opened up when I started playing with mushrooms. But what do we want to talk about here? What do we want to get to today? Why is that important to us? It's important for us because this network that exists is this kind of it's this communication network between the trees. It's been there all along. You take one deep breath, you're breathing in 10 to 20 spores of from these mushrooms, because the fungus, the mushroom itself, the cap itself is what is the fruiting body, right? That's usually what we see with our eyes, and we don't see the mycelium underneath. So a few of these spores enter your lungs every time you take a breath. So it's everywhere. You've got it floating around everywhere, and this network underneath is what is kind of hidden or concealed. And so it was interesting because the guy, this Paul guy, he was saying, if we can figure out the way that the mushrooms, that the fungus communicate, then we can maybe figure out how to communicate with nature. And of course, it rings bells for us because we're thinking, okay, well, we're always talking about this hidden network between us. Where's this hidden network between us? How do we communicate with it? How do we build it? So anyways, from this, I want to know how you were impressed from the movie, you and Seth, Asaf and Seth. I want to know how you were impressed by it. And I want to talk about this network of mycelium and contrast it and compare it with this network that we're talking about that's connecting us around the world. Let's talk about it a little bit.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I would say first that for someone who's tuning in for a movie review, this is a Kabbalistic movie review that we're doing here, which is not exactly a movie review. We're more like reflecting on the stuff from a purely Kabbalistic perspective. Yeah, I don't know, Seth. You wanna go first? You have
Yeah. So that point, Chris, that you brought up was, I think, the thing that was most impressive to me. But many details, like I didn't know that that this mycelium have kin recognition.
Mm.
Like they understand through the network which seeds are their own and where to give nutrients, like you said. And what was most fascinating is like, of course, we're always talking about the structure of nature as a certain model. We talk about like this Yud K Vav K, this like four phases of direct light. This always is the same model. And to see that the model that we can see with our eyes in the animal kingdom, it's the same. And of course, in humans, it's that same model. That you got a plus and a minus. There's some kind of offspring. There's some kind of transmission between them. We don't see it on the molecular level or even on this kind of mycelium level, but it was so like, wow, when I heard them explaining it, it almost was like you could imagine using these examples to explain our spiritual connections and how we are constantly passing messages between us all. And that's what I was feeling as they were explaining this, that
Mhm.
there is this connection between all of us. We don't feel it maybe, but we're always picking up. Right? All of a sudden I get a negative thought. All of a sudden I get a thought about a relative. All of a sudden I get a thought about where are all of these messages coming from? We don't clearly understand yet, but we're in a network even bigger than the mycelium network that connects all of us. That was really beautiful. That was, I think, the most beautiful part of the movie for me was as they were explaining that it kind of illustrated something that we try and explain spiritually all
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah, suddenly you have like a very tangible example of nature. I think that's what I would say. Here's what I think is really cool about this organism. This mycelium or fungi is it's like nature's all-purpose organism, right? So it can decompose, it can preserve life, it can convert carbon, it can store carbon. I mean, it can kill you, it can put you on a trip, it can heal you, it can communicate, it creates networks. It's quite the all-purpose organism, and that I think is a beautiful uh, demonstration of the superiority of nature. That's kind of what hit me very nicely. That this it's a very beautiful, vivid, and apparent, visible example that we can look at and see the superior program that is nature. We can see how nature has its own deeper intelligence, how there's a deeper mind that's embedded in nature,
Right, because
and
there's no there's
fungi.
no there's no
Yeah.
brain in the mushroom. There's no brain in the
Mm.
mycelia, but they're performing. Right, we think, well,
It's
if you're gonna
playing out a
yeah,
program.
if you're gonna
Yes.
if we take care of our kids because we have a brain and a heart and it tells us, but mycelium don't have a brain and a heart and they're taking care of their kids. It's like we're all playing out nature's
The network itself, yeah, the network itself is like its success story. The fact that it's able to network itself around the world, around this globe, and be able to communicate with other parts of it, and communicate with other parts of the system and benefit the system, and do only this, like do its role. And the reason it's so successful is because it has this network connection. Anyways, that was interesting. That was really big. If you haven't seen the movie, go watch it. See how you're inspired by it. Show us. Maybe leave some comments on this show after you see it. I already want to move on, so I want to wait. Asaf, you're trying to say something
I
else?
would say more than that. I would say more than that.
Tell us.
Yes.
Tell us.
I would say, yeah, I would say that's kind of like there's one more thing we have to add here kabbalistically, which is that yes, fungi are a great example for how nature's program is all inclusive, and it's so brilliant, and it's magnificent, and it's superior to us. It created us and not the other way around. We are just part of that program. And here is where I think Kabbalah steps in. Kabbalists are saying, you know what? We can tap into this mind of nature, the thing that you see so beautifully in the film, that they really show nicely with all the different aspects of the great wisdom and intelligence of nature. We can tap into it. We can not just look at it and be impressed by it. We can actually feel that program happening through us. We can do that if we come into what Kabbalists call equivalence of form with nature. That's exactly what we are able to do. And what's cool for me is that you guys both were impressed by the mycelium as an example of the network of that exists between us humans, except that we don't see it. Pretty much like the underground network of the mycelium, there's also a non-material network of human connection, connecting all human beings into this one network. If we relate that to what the Kabbalists are telling us, then it's very simple. If we relate to each other a certain way, we can tap into that network between us, to that spiritual mycelium, if you will. We can discover the same kind of smart, intelligent, full of life-giving forces kind of network that exists between us.
In the movie, I think is, yeah. In the movie when they have the alarm, it's like a laser, and like if you cross, you can't see, like when you're robbing a bank in the movie, they have all these like lasers that go across, and you have to like, if you break the laser, then it sounds the alarm. So if you like throw kind of powder over it, then you can see where all of the lasers are.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Great. That's great.
So for us, with the mycelium, while they're underground, the network for us actually touches every single point in the whole universe, every part of every planet, every part of every star. And it's like, that's the spiritual network. We discover that it's not just something that's in the dirt on this one planet, but there is a network connecting the whole system of reality, all of these forces. If we can, the spirituality is basically like throwing the powder on it and just whoosh, you see the connections of everything.
And we just need to tap into it. That's it. It's already there. It's already there. It exists. We don't need to build it. We don't need to make it. It made us. It created us. We're parts of it.
That's the main thing. That's really the key, that it created us. It's like all of a sudden we're gonna do some special movements and then build our own thing. We're not, and it kind of shows you that we don't even have the capacity to build our own thing. So what are we really doing? Like, we're inspired by this movie, and it's just inspiring us to tap into the thing that's already there. It's like kind of calling us back. It's really special. We got to move on. We're going on. Thank you for the points. Awesome points. If you haven't seen the movie, go watch the movie. It's awesome. Let's move on to something that's a little bit. It's a different vibe. We'll just put it that way.
To say the least.
It's got a different vibe to it, but it is interesting and it is relevant, and you'll see why. The Netherlands and Switzerland, northern, northern European countries, they have a kind of a different thing going on than, and I'm sure some of the people in the chat can relate. They have kind of a different attitude to life. And so there's some news that came out of there recently, and it's not such a recent topic, but but there is something that's a little bit, it's kind of making some noise out there. First of all, I don't know if anyone's heard of Substance X. Substance X it's basically the name that was given to this powder, this powder that's kind of been nicknamed suicide powder, where it just basically just kills you nice and easy. You take it and you don't really feel anything. You just kind of die. And it's pretty popular. And in Netherlands, there have been only like 33 reported cases, so it's hard to trace it, I suppose. But what's interesting about this is that that this exists at all, kind of, that there's this need or this want to have something that's available to where I can take this powder and die if I want to. Now, it's not available. You can't go through, your doctor and say, can I have some Substance X? So of course we know that means that it's been shoved underground. You have some kind of black market. You have to know somebody who can get it for you. And you don't have to go through all this red tape. Are you mentally fit? Or do you have some kind of terminal illness? So you have a wide range of people, young ones, old ones, in between ones, who are just kind of finding themselves in a situation where they feel like that's something they want to take. Next to that, we can talk about that later. Next to that, there's a thing in Switzerland, which is kind of like an upgrade from that. let's go to some images here, because really fascinating. How it's just amazing how if there's a need for something, then there's someone that exists in the world that's ready to provide for that need. So they call these things suicide pods.
If you can make money off it.
If you can make, well, hey, listen, this guy says he doesn't want to make money. He wants to provide the architecture, the blueprint, the whatever it is, so people can kind of print it off themselves.
But in our world, whatever you do requires you to make money off it, just because the nature of the world.
It's important to point that out. It's important to point that out. So let's look at this. I'm still trying to get good at like switching. Eurobi.
Oh, I see something, but it's okay. Now it's not blurry.
No, it takes me a second. I have to go through a couple of steps. This is what's called a sarco. I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger. It's called a sarco. Okay, it's short for sarcophagus. What do? It looks kind of like I don't know if you've ever played Halo or some like futuristic video game or something. It looks kind of like one of those space
gaming
pods, right?
accessory, yeah.
A gaming accessory, and that's one of the criticism. It's kind of like cool, it's a criticism that it's been getting recently. And basically, it's a way to appeal to people who want to die. They feel like that's the thing that they want to choose to do, but in the most, I don't want to say luxurious, but it appeals to, the other parts of, I want to be comfortable. I want to feel like I'm enjoying the last few seconds of my life. So how do they make that happen? You step inside this pod. I don't know if you can see. This is like a glass pod. Oh, you can't even see my mouse? That's annoying.
No, we see it.
We can't really play that. There's a couple more.
The mouse. No, we don't see the
Look at this. I don't know if you can see. Style and euphoria. So what is it? You get inside this pod. Oh, you can't see it. You get inside this pod. You close the door. And slowly, the oxygen is evacuated and is replaced by nitrogen. So you're suffocating, basically. That's what's happening. You suffocate, you get in this box, you suffocate. It has this biodegradable setback other piece where it turns into a coffin.
It sounds terrifying.
It's not terrifying. It's cool. You can even
cool to suffocate.
You can even there was some backlash because there was this virtual reality. You can see how she has this thing on. You're actually going through the experience virtual reality style before you actually do it. So you can experience, you can feel what it would be like if you did do it. See, style and euphoria. So like you even experience a little euphoria before because of the what's it called whenever you lose oxygen?
Asphyxiation.
Asphyxiation, yeah. So it's like you're being. It's slowly being sucked out. Like you're slowly reducing the oxygen levels, and so you're basically just suffocating.
So you don't panic, basically.
No panic,
right?
and you even feel
it's so gradual,
nice.
That you just sleep into it.
You just kind of fall into it. So that's what happened. That's what this guy has created, but he's appealing. What's interesting is that he's appealing to a need, and for us, it's like, okay. That's really interesting that such a thing even exists, but apparently there's people that that have a need for this. They prefer they're living a life where they prefer not to. I mean, that's a simple way to say it. They prefer not to live their life, and instead of death by other means, there's a lot more brutal means of dying. With, I don't know, gunshots or by cops these days. That's another way where you just, anger the cops so much that they just shoot you for you. And, it's so many different ways. And so you have something that's appealing to a certain type of person. Like Seth, you were telling me earlier, you can say it again, but about your grandma. She was suffering, the one with the glass eye.
One of my grandmas, she lost her eye, like she had cancer in her eye. And she just like really emotionally went downhill after that. And then she had one medicine for her blood, which made her belly bad, and so she had another medicine for the belly, which gave her terrible headaches, and so she was like
Oh boy.
on like a nightstand full of medicines, with like a glass eye, and she was just so miserable. She just didn't. It was so sad because she's such an amazing person, and she really was like the matriarch of the family. We had every holiday at her house, and at the end, you just saw like she was alive, but she had no quality. At the end, and I'm sure there's many people like that. That
Yeah,
they're
it's a
going through
similar
some kind of
story with my
cancer.
grandma too.
I
Yeah.
think everyone kind of has such a thing, yeah.
So in that situation, it's difficult, but you could almost maybe we need to make some kind of line because so you suppose you have someone who's going through some really bad cancer experience, and they're not going to get better, and they're just going to live for like the next, we don't know, either like a month or 3 months in just like deteriorating in just agony, and they just keep them on morphine or whatever. So that's one thing, and on the other side of the line though is can I say it like this? Am I out of line to say, does every person kind of look at their life at a certain point? Let's say maybe when we're younger or whenever, or just look at like the bills. Okay, so I'm always going to have bills. I'm always going to have stress. I'm always going to like kind of measure their life and think like, I don't know, suppose there's a person who doesn't have, who's working somewhere at a factory, or I don't know, digging ditches somewhere. I'm thinking to myself, I'm not changing the world. Um, People might not even, 100 years from now, no one's going to remember me. 5 years from now, no one's going to remember me. I don't have any family, like kids. So why, what is the value of me even being here? Do people think that and say like, if this something like this was legal, would you
Mm.
just have like a huge line of people like, yeah,
I
like,
think I think that these pods. This is the thing, right? I don't know about the suicide powder, but the suicide pod, I think, is this is like legal, isn't it? Isn't
It
it? Or
just
it's
got legalized. Yeah.
just
It,
got legalized. That's the
is
there,
whole
it,
thing.
is it
not
legal
here.
for anyone
Or
who
there.
passes like or anyone who's in like with a terminal illness, or it's legal like if you're 21
Mm,
years old you can just go get one and
it's a good
If you have
question.
a
Okay,
terminal
I don't.
illness, if you have a terminal illness, instead of other, it means like injection or there's some kind of drink you can take too, which is not super comfortable. It's not the most comfortable. Here, you can drag this thing out to a field, like your favorite field or whatever, starry night, turn the gas on, and that's it. And right then and there, they can bury you in that little thing. So it's definitely the most comfortable of there's a lot, but it's something that you have to kind of be approved to do. The suicide powder, on the other hand, is something where you can just make up your mind, I'm done,
Mhm.
and go find a guy on the street, and yeah, and he can sell it to you.
I think I know what's the how to. I'm gonna try to break down the cognitive dissonance that we all feel about this topic. Okay, it's paradoxical. First of all, um, yeah, there's because on the one hand, what we're talking about here is far from funny. Obviously, this is sad because we're the euthanasia. This whole topic is very controversial, of course, but we're talking about, at least in the basic sense of it, we're talking about people who are terminally ill. They suffer every second. They're literally the suffering in their body is so excruciating and unbearable that they think of euthanasia as a way out,
Or
as a
depression,
way
though.
out
It's
of it,
important to
right?
it's important to mention that too. Depression. It's just a person who, like Seth described, someone who just doesn't
Right.
see like any point in life. It's not like they have a
No,
terminal
so wait.
illness.
So wait, I think the dissonance, the cognitive dissonance is here. You have this picture of the terminally ill person on the one hand who is suffering excruciating pain every moment, let's say. And and then euthanasia becomes a possible solution. But then when the solutions become more and more attractive in how convenient, comfortable, easy to apply, easy to use, user friendly they become, that starts to make you think, well, maybe the people don't have to be terminally ill in order to go into a suicide pod, into an assisted suicide pod,
At what
or
point do you say, like,
you know, exactly.
this is like
The-
enough crap in my
the-
life, and I don't really think this time around, even if I got to come back
and,
another time.
and now take it to the extreme. Let's say your daughter or whatever, now she has her first breakup and she's all shattered completely. And for her, at that point in time, she's 15 years old and someone broke up with her, and like,
That happened.
you
That
look
was
at it,
the guy who
you
was
look at it and you go like, okay, big deal.
he
But
was an
for
advocate.
her-
It was his daughter. Now he's an advocate against this other advocacy group that's saying let's give everyone the freedom
wait,
to do
this is
whatever
an
they want.
actual story? This is an actual story?
It wasn't
I
that
was
she
just-
broke up. She was just depressed a little bit, but she was young.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
I was
15.
just giving an imaginary scenario.
It's not imaginary.
This is
Yeah,
what no, I was seriously just imagining a scenario right
It's
now.
a real
What's
scenario.
the story?
it's a story.
What's
I
the
don't
real
remember why
scenario?
I don't remember why, but she was a young girl, and she just decided that that it was better off for her and everybody else around her. If you're really depressed, then you justify it.
Yeah, that's the question. Does everyone feel that?
So
'Cause
that's the
I
question.
could definitely go back into points in my life where I felt like, what is this even worth? You're just like in that pit of darkness. Does everyone feel that at some point?
What? And just because you didn't have a gun?
No, I don't think I would have killed myself, but I definitely thought, like, what is the purpose of being alive?
The I'm still shocked that this was a real story, but because I was just imagining, trying the point I was trying to make is exactly to just show the gravity of that question. Can a person really decide if you open that opportunity for everyone? Will it not be just an easy way out for people to just say, hey, screw this life, and I'm not going to do this thing called life anymore. If I can just go into a pod or sniff a powder or something, and it'll just be easily over. And that's a scary question.
And
That's
why
a
should someone
big,
else tell me yes or no
scary
I can do
question.
that?
Yeah,
Why should
it's
someone
it's
else be able to
Bala
decide?
Sulam asks a question himself, actually, in Peace in the. I think in the article Peace in the World, he says, if you put all of the good in your life on one side and all the bad in your life on the
Oh.
other side, it's a fair question to ask. Like, is it worth even being born at all?
And he says
Right.
but he says with all the suffering, you would choose not to come if you had the choice.
yeah. That's a big thing to swallow. I mean, basically, so we're already like, taking a Kabbalistic perspective here. Yeah, the Kabbalists say clearly that if you look at this life, this bodily corporeal experience that we call life, not spiritual life, beastly life, the life of the animal that we call human, but it really is just on the animate level. If you look at that and you compare the amount of effort and work, or in other words, suffering, just call it one word, suffering, and you compare that to the amount of true thrilling pleasure that you have, like Seth said, it's not, it doesn't compare. It doesn't compare. You'll always be in deficit. And if you judge just that, then it's not worthwhile to be alive.
It's also important to note that that's by design, because specifically that pushes us towards spirituality. Otherwise, we would remain as an animal.
So
An animal
is it
doesn't
okay?
feel that. An animal's not constantly measuring, oh, I had to chase that damn, giraffe yesterday, and I'm so exhausted, and
That's why we
today my
always
kids
envy
are hungry.
cats. Yeah.
What?
That's why you always envy the cats. They don't have
Yeah.
such a
I want to say this though. I want to put you guys in a state for a second, and everyone who's listening, who's with us right now. Put yourself for a second in the shoes of a person who is in some terminal state. Okay. So forget the pain aspect of it for a second. Okay. But let's say that that you are going to die in a matter of days or a few weeks.
You're terminally
Just-
ill, you mean?
What?
You're
Yeah,
a person's terminally ill.
Yes, exactly. And I just want to reflect for a second on this scenario when you know that this life is going to end soon, because we all know it's going to end, but we just don't think about it because it seems far for us and we don't know the exact date. But the people who know they're going to die soon because they're terminally ill, then within a matter of days or weeks, let's say, this is going to be over. Doesn't that potentially make you think about the meaning and purpose of it all? Isn't it like, doesn't it become like an obvious question if you're faced with, okay, this whole thing, whatever it is that I did in life, good, bad, ugly, loved it, liked it, hated it, whatever it is, in a few weeks, it's going to be over. Don't you immediately start thinking, is there like, what's the purpose of it all? What's the purpose and the meaning of it all? And I think that just the fact that this, that this probably happens to people who can still think, and I think that's an interesting that's an interesting thing that happens, because from a spiritual perspective, the whole material experience that we go through, it is purposeful. It's not by chance. Nothing is lost. Nothing is lost. If you lived for 50 years, 70 years, or 120 years, right? Whatever it is that you lived, whatever it is that you went through, spiritually speaking, you've accumulated some information, spiritual information, that goes to the cloud, so to speak, to the spiritual cloud, and it's aggregated there and it's collected there. Nothing is lost. This is what Kabbalists call, there's no absence in the spiritual, right? And so everything that's happening to you is designed to take you a step forward until you achieve sufficient information to complete your what Kabbalists call your correction, the correction of your
wait
soul.
a second. So you're saying that if I like cut out part of that and jump ahead, is there an issue there?
Look, it's
And also those questions, it might not be until you're facing death. You may go through your days just like work, live, and not until you come to your moment of death that you actually start processing, like going through that kind of correction thing, like what is my life, what is the meaning of my life, like until you stop and actually think about it. Before that, you might just be running through your days. Got to get to the doctor, got to get here.
Well, that's what they say. They say, I'm about to die, and everything became much more dear to me. I started enjoying the sun. I started, stuff like that. Like the people around me. I started valuing things more. Okay, that's not what you're saying, though.
What? It's kind of part of it. What if there is? Let me phrase it as a question. Okay, what if in those moments where you reach that point where you know you're going to die, and you now are in a very contemplative state, you're questioning and contemplating the purpose and meaning of it all. What if in that period you're making some very important spiritual kind of scrutiny, as we call it in Kabbalah, kind of an analysis of your being that has a lot of value spiritually, even though you may not be able to see it right now? What if specifically that state that you're in right now, can has
I just want to call BS for a minute. I want to call BS on you for a minute, because well, I think that's the case. How are you going to sell that to someone? Well, you should suffer.
I'm not selling anything to anyone.
I just want to tell you that your heavenly account is getting a lot of points while you suffer for these next 2 weeks. So, just let's outlaw this device. Okay.
It's inaccurate. No, it's a great point that it's a great wedge to stick in my wheels now, because it should be clarified. But I think it's not exactly the point. There is everything that this gets a little complicated. And I told you guys ahead of time that this is one of those topics that I have a lot of thoughts about it, but I think getting like to a concise kind of Kabbalistic point on it is complicated, is tough to do. Here's the thing: every moment, Kabbalistically, we should look at everything that led to this moment as had to happen. Everything that if I'm in a bad shape right now, everything that happened to this point is exactly nature's program. But from this moment onwards, it's all up to me. So
What do you mean?
the
What do you mean from this moment onwards? What moment onwards?
it's I think it's getting too complicated.
I don't know.
Alright,
You have
so
to
I-
explain this. You have to explain this. It's
What,
critical.
let's zoom out for a second.
Kabbalistic-
Let's zoom out for a
Kab-
second. Okay, wait a second.
Mhm,
Let's look.
yeah.
Let's just refresh where we're standing. We've got people who who are terminally ill. Let's just refresh
Yeah.
the brain. It's people who are terminally ill, and they've decided, or have they not decided? What are you saying? They're before they decided they want to die, or they're
I'm saying that I'm questioning the decision to end your life.
Yeah, it's cheap and easy to
You're-
kill yourself. So now Saf's saying, yeah, but you lose out on your heavenly points. So now he wants to make us just unbelievable.
is that the argument
not
he's making
having-
though? Are you making that argument?
No, not exactly. Not exactly. It's not heavenly
No,
point.
I'm saying
It's-
it like in
if
tongue in
you-
cheek.
Okay, so let me complete the perspective on this, right? What if you were a different kind of person and you felt that there is a higher purpose that you exist for, and it's beyond the body? What if you've achieved that type of perception of human existence, and you no longer feel like your body is when your body dies, you're gone?
So you're probably not in the market for a suicide pod.
So you took some mushrooms before.
No, but wouldn't that be a completely different experience? So what I'm trying to say is how everything starts and ends with how do we look at our experience in this world, this 70 or 100 years of life, however you're going to live. What is the point of it? What's the purpose of this material life? We were put in this material experience, Kabbalistically speaking, to wake up from it. It's transient. It's not real. It's imaginary. It's not even you. I realize this is completely out there for people.
Don't make
who are,
disclaimers. This is what we're paid for. Give
Wait
it
a
to
second.
us.
I like this. I'm starting to
No,
relate to
think
you
about
now.
it. Go back to the mycelium, even, to go, we are, our consciousness in this world, in this physical life, is glued to a body, to a piece of flesh that is enveloping our being. That's how it feels to us.
And the
we have
family
this
around me, my
narrative.
kids and my mom and dad.
Exactly.
maybe too. Yeah.
Yes, and I have this narrative that it's me, and I have my name, and there's my kids, and here is my wife, and that's what I do, and that's what I'm worth, and this is my bank account, and all kinds of things. And all of that, Kabbalistically, is it's just a transient, fleeting moment of an illusory perception. Whereas in truth, we are all part of an eternal, collective, interconnected consciousness that's connected to the governing program of all of reality. And the only reason we experience right now our material existence, our material being, is only to be able to go into that collective eternal consciousness in a conscious way. In fact, Kabbalists explain to us very clearly, it's written in several Kabbalistic sources, that you only have to go back to this material experience until you fully correct your desire.
What are you saying
When-
is the benefit?
What
What are you saying?
Your non-material entity. What I'm saying is that the whole problem is, if our material life is all we have, then I totally agree that, maybe you don't even have to be terminally ill to feel like it's not worth it. And Kabbalists say it. If you just look at life, if you look at what I'm getting in this bodily experience, in this 90 years of life or whatever, if you really compare how much I put in, all the effort, the work, the pain, the problems, the disappointments, the discouragements, the love shattered, the, breaking your heart, whatever it is that happens, being, bullied at school, whatever, all of that, right? Banks and mortgages, whatever, and the amount of actual lasting pleasure that you have, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. So we have to have a higher goal.
Yeah.
Look,
we have to have a higher goal.
I didn't plan to go that.
That's all right. I think that's all right. I think this. I'm not looking at the chat. Seth, I don't know if you were looking at the chat, or somebody. But I imagine
we
people
might sound very, very.
If there is no spirituality, then it's
exactly.
Yeah,
Worthless.
and even if there is, even if a person comes to spirituality, then there's, it's a different conversation. But I think the main point for us here is living life without a spiritual goal or living life with a spiritual goal. And we're not getting into the discernment of, a person should it's better that he lives his last 2 weeks in excruciating pain because he purifies his soul. And no, that's not even the point here. I think to simplify it, the point is that if you have a spiritual North Star, so to speak, if you have a spiritual goal in your life, your calculations, your life, you're not even looking at these calculations the same way as you are if you think that your entire thing is those 70 years or 80 years and it ended and it begins. Once you begin to enter into some kind of spiritual awareness, you understand that you have been around a really long time and you will be around a really long time, and that you happen to be in this physical form for this period of time. And it's just a different way of approaching. So I think, and I'm not surprised that it's coming from Scandinavia, because it's like, there's different natures of people in different parts of the world, but this is my life. We want to make it good and comfortable while we're here. Everyone should have a house and everything. They did a good job even with distributing goods and things in that area. So listen, we have a life for this amount of time. We want everyone to be comfortable and happy. And when you can't do that anymore, so then game over. It kind of fits in there. If you add in the spiritual element to it, I think the conversation changes completely. And I don't even think we need to get into those kind of questions of
no,
spirituality.
You don't. It's because it also doesn't help. But what's interesting is that you don't see, you're not going to see animals say, if they're suffering, then they're not going to kill themselves or whatever. They don't even have that thought. They don't have that thought because they're not making the I'm suffering too much kind of thing. They don't have that calculation. But what's interesting is that if we're talking about what do we say spirituality is? We say spirituality is the connection that a person has to that network and how they're benefiting that network. That's basically that's spirituality. That's the reality. My reality all of a sudden becomes not this body and not my family around me and not the things that I care about, my I. It's all of a sudden, how am I serving the system? So if you're saying that I'm cutting myself out off of being able to serve that system fully through these ways that I could have potentially served it, and I'm myself am making a calculation above the calculation that I should be making for the whole, that I think is the difference here in calculations or perception or something. Anyways, we did kind of go off a little bit, which is fine. I don't know, did we have any? Is there any way to close this that makes it feel like we?
I'd say one more thing. Okay,
go ahead.
I don't know if that's the wrap up you're looking for, but I would say one more thing. If you do have a goal and a connection to an existence that's higher than this transient, temporary one, because whether you're gonna die today, whether you're going to die tomorrow, whether you're going to die in pain, whether you're going to die nicely, you're going to die. I'm sorry, that's not news
You've
to
seen the
anyone,
2 weeks.
right?
You've seen that
You're
chart,
not
like how many weeks you
you're
have
not
left. Have
gonna.
you seen that thing?
I hope it's, you know,
Ugh,
the
ugh.
yeah. Look, there's an exercise that I used to do with beginning in begin with beginner beginner Kabbalah courses, where I would tell them, how people come to Kabbalah and they think that there's all the secrets of the numbers and gematria and all the letters and all of that in Kabbalah, which there is, of course, and it's a special language and it means a lot. But people think that you can kind of play with the numbers and find an angel or some stuff, some things like that, right? So I tell them, hello everyone. You know what is a special number? 81. You know what's special about 81? 81 is the number of the average life expectancy in Israel. I used to give these lessons in Israel. Now I want you to draw a table with 81 boxes, and each one, don't share it with the others. You don't have to, but just cross the boxes that represent the number of boxes that represents your age. So now you can look at how many boxes you have left. Right now, yeah, I understand, of course. But now, if you, if you
Enjoy your day, everyone. Thanks for coming. We'll see you next week.
no, that now I have to, I have to lift them up to a whole other level, and it's a tough thing to look at if that's all you've got. If that's all you've got, but if you start cultivating a connection to a higher level of experience and you begin to work on developing that feeling and that mind and that experience, then even the bad stuff that's happening to you in this life also have a purpose. So now we went from, so as soon as you have a higher goal, you go from not only this material life is not worthless anymore, it's purposeful. Now every moment has a point, because with it I can do some conscious work. We have to learn what that means in Kabbalah, but you can do some conscious work every second of your existence in the material world in order to rise to the non-material eternal world.
So you're saying,
And
go ahead. No, finish.
yeah, no, that's it. So
You're basically just
so
trying to make a plea to why it's worthwhile. Why it's worthwhile
I'm
to
saying
stay.
the whole difference between is what makes this life, this material temporary life, which is going to end, right? Come on, don't be so.
I saw
happy
the
about
chart.
it.
I don't like it. I mean, I saw the chart. I
Yeah,
don't like it.
we don't. So this temporary material life, um, uh, the thing that determines whether it's worthless or purposeful and worth every second is if you have a higher worthy goal
I think
that
what
goes beyond this material experience.
Yes, but I think what you're missing is
it.
that purposeful fulfills you. If you feel that it's purposeful, then you're not. Then
Yes.
that's already enough.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Of course. Yeah.
That's
Yes.
maybe not clear to
sure
some people.
that.
I don't know.
Oh, that I'm sure that so much in what we discussed today is unclear.
That's
I'm
great.
so sure about it. It's very controversial and very, very. Some of it is abstruse. Abstruse is the word for people who are, who are not studying the wisdom of Kabbalah. But maybe it opened up some.
At least start with go watching the Fungus movie. It's before
Yes,
they take
go
it off
back to
Netflix.
the fun stuff. The Fungi. Yeah.
The Fungus.
We laughed, we cried, we started with life and ended with death.
Yeah,
We spent another
we
hour
should have
with
ended with
regeneration.
Right.
Whose idea was it to end?
I
to
think
end
we were
on
going to also
on a
get to
suicide?
reproducing robots, but we just we did a deep dive on death pods, so we didn't get around to it. We had
That's
we had
what
more
needed to
planned on the agenda, but
All right.
Let me just say this. I feel like I hope I didn't discourage anyone from going through
made me
this
really
life.
sad. But besides that, I'm fine.
I want to tell everybody who's listening, this life is worth living, because we can go from it, as it can be a springboard to a much better whole perfect, eternal existence. And you don't have to die in order to feel it. You can begin to develop a sense of it right here and now. That's what we're doing in the Wisdom of Kabbalah. And hey, check out Kabbu if you're, if you want to give it a try.
I don't know if you could have ended it any better. That's clear. That's clear. If you want to go for it, there you go. Just go for it and check it out.
I'm just trying to compensate for, getting Seth so disappointed.
Well, that wraps it up for us, guys.
All right, everyone. 2 p.m. Thursday Eastern Time. Thanks, guys, for connecting from Israel. Thank you, everyone from around the world. We saw you all. Now I'm over in the chat, and we saw people connecting from the Netherlands and all over the place. I don't remember where everyone was, but hi, Patricia, and everyone who we know. KAMC, good to see you. Max G, good to see you. Seraphim and everyone. Jensen, hey, Jensen. All right, we will see you all next Thursday. 2 p.m. Eastern. Have a great day, everyone. Take care.
Next week, everybody. Bye-bye.
Time's come to wake from our slumber. Ignorance is not bliss if it gets you in trouble. Let's not pretend the world won't come to an end if we go on exploiting others with a devil-eyed grin. I'm guilty too, believe me, count me in. When we all accept the booby prize of a game we can't win. More simply said, don't do to others that which you hate is the beginning of a path to a positive fate. But don't wait, time's now where nature will bring the pain. Like a child who points a pin at their eye and gets smacked on the hand. We can't go back to living life the same as it's been. Dying every day, hoping tomorrow will live. That day has come, wake and rise and see what joy we can give. And care of others will discover what true happiness is.